The first thing I remember is the heat. Not the warmth of summer sun or a fireplace at Christmas, but the kind of blistering heat that eats through air, skin, and breath. The university library was burning, flames consuming shelves of history, knowledge, and every memory I had once tried to bury. And in the middle of it, I was pressed against the chest of the one person I swore I would never need, Ethan Carter. My rival, my enemy, the guy I had promised myself I would hate forever. It should have been ironic. I was choking on smoke, maybe dying, and yet all I could think about was the curve of his jaw illuminated by firelight, the way his arms wrapped around me like he had never wanted to let go. "You're an idiot," Ethan spat, though his voice shook. "Why the hell did you run back inside?" I wanted to laugh, but it came out as a cough. "For the same reason you followed me," I whispered. "Because maybe I don't hate you as much as I thought." And before the flames swallowed the ceiling, before consciousness slipped away, I did something reckless. I told him the truth. "I love you." Those words should have never existed between us. But they hung in the smoke, raw, wild, and terrifying. When I woke, the world was different. The air no longer smelled like ash. The ceiling above me wasn't scorched wood but cracked white paint. Posters of rock bands from another decade plastered across the walls. My hands weren't scarred. My body thinner, smaller, felt wrong, like I had been stuffed into the wrong skin. And when I stumbled toward the mirror, heart pounding, I nearly collapsed. I was 16 again. The boy staring back wasn't the man who had dragged himself through years of rivalry, heartbreak, and regret. He was just me, at the start of it all when hatred had been sharp and easy, before love had broken through. And then I heard his voice. "Still staring at yourself like you're God's gift to the world?" I spun around. Ethan stood in the doorway, younger too. His hair was shorter, his eyes less hardened, but the smirk, the infuriating, cocky smirk, was the same. He looked at me like the enemy I used to be, not the man who had confessed his love in fire and ruin. My stomach twisted. This was the beginning. This was before everything. High school in America has its own cruelty. Ours was no exception. Ethan Carter had been the golden boy captain of the basketball team, perfect grades, the kind of smile that could get away with murder. I had been the outsider, the scholarship kid, the one who never belonged. And somewhere between competition and survival, we had learned to hate each other. But now, as I sat in class again with graffiti on desks and the buzz of fluorescent lights, all I could see was the boy who would one day pull me from the fire. The boy who, against all odds, would hold me like I was worth saving. The problem was, he didn't know any of that. To him, I was still just Liam Hayes, the sarcastic nerd who challenged him at every turn. The guy who rolled his eyes when Ethan strutted down the hall surrounded by friends and admirers. Yet every insult he threw felt different now. Sharper, yes, but also strangely fragile. Like I was hearing the echoes of a life I'd already lived, and I knew the pain hiding underneath his bravado. Because here was the secret nobody knew back then. Ethan Carter wasn't untouchable. Behind that perfect grin, he was just as lonely as me. The first week back in that teenage body, I tried to stay silent. To let history play out, to not interfere. But silence never lasted between us. "Still think you're smarter than everyone else?" Ethan leaned against my locker one morning, blocking me in. His smirk was dangerous, but his eyes, they flickered with something uncertain. "Only smarter than you," I shot back, "because some habits never die." He chuckled, but there was a crack in it. "You never change, do you?" If only he knew. Nights were the worst. I would lie awake in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by old textbooks and the sound of my mother's TV downstairs, remembering the fire, remembering how it felt to confess everything only to wake up in the past. It was cruel, to hold knowledge of love in a timeline where it didn't yet exist. But then came the Friday night game. The whole school buzzing, bleachers packed, lights flooding the court. Ethan, in his jersey, moved across the gym like he owned it. The crowd chanted his name. Every eye locked on him. I hated it. I loved it. And when he caught me staring from the stands, his smirk faltered. Just for a second. Enough for me to see the question buried there. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "Because I already know the ending, Ethan." because I've already loved you once. But the words stayed trapped inside me. A week later, fate threw us together in detention. I don't even remember what I did to get there, probably mouthed off to a teacher, but sitting in that silent room with Ethan was unbearable. The way he tapped his pen, restless, the way he glanced at me like he couldn't decide whether to laugh or punch me. Finally, he broke the silence. You ever get tired of fighting me? I swallowed. Every damn day. He blinked, like he hadn't expected honesty. Then he grinned, softer this time. Good. Means I'm winning. I rolled my eyes, but something in my chest loosened. For the first time, I realized I wasn't just reliving the past. I was rewriting it. And maybe, just maybe, I could change everything. The years rewrote themselves, not as I remembered, but as something entirely new. Ethan and I no longer circled each other like predators in a cage. Instead, the walls we had built between us cracked sooner, revealing the boy beneath the armor and the boy who had always been too afraid to admit how much he cared. By senior year, we weren't enemies. We weren't even rivals. We were something undefined: late-night conversations under bleachers, stolen glances across classrooms, a tension that everyone felt but nobody dared to name. But even as our closeness grew, fear lingered. Fear of what the world would say. Fear of what admitting the truth might destroy. This was still small-town America. Whispers traveled faster than fire. One night, after a party neither of us wanted to be at, we ended up walking side by side down empty streets, the moon the only witness. Ethan shoved his hands into his jacket pockets. His usual confidence dimmed. Liam, he muttered, do you ever feel like we're wasting time pretending? My chest tightened. Pretending what? That we don't. He broke off, laughing bitterly. Forget it. I stopped him, grabbed his arm. Say it. His eyes met mine, full of a fear I had never seen before. That we don't love each other. The world went quiet. My heart hammered, loud enough to drown out everything else. This was the moment, the one I had carried across lifetimes, across fire and ash. I do, I whispered. I love you. For once, Ethan didn't smirk. He didn't joke. He just pulled me close, his forehead against mine, and breathed like he was finally alive. Loving Ethan wasn't easy. It was hiding in plain sight, brushing hands when no one looked, passing notes instead of kisses. It was fear stitched into joy, always wondering who might find out. But it was also everything I had ever wanted. We made it to graduation side by side. When he walked across the stage, he glanced at me in the crowd, and I saw its silent promise that no matter what came next, he was mine and I was his. College came, then the library. The fire still happened. Flames still tore through that night. Smoke still clawed at my lungs. But this time it was different. This time, when Ethan dragged me out of the burning wreckage, I wasn't just his enemy turned secret friend. I was the boy who had loved him for years, the boy who had held his hand in the dark, the boy who had whispered yes to forever on quiet streets. And when I told him, I love you, again, choking on ash, it wasn't reckless. It was a truth that had carried us through lifetimes. The doctors said I was lucky to be alive. I lay in the hospital bed, tubes in my arms, watching the steady rise and fall of Ethan's chest as he slept in the chair beside me. He refused to leave, even when the nurses insisted. When his eyes finally opened, bloodshot and tired, he reached for my hand without hesitation. You scared me, he said hoarsely. I smiled weakly. I scare you a lot, don't I? He laughed, then grew serious. No more hiding. Not anymore. It wasn't a question. It was a vow. Years later, when the noise of the world grew quieter and our hair had started to gray, Ethan and I would sit together on the porch of a small house we called ours. Neighbors would pass by, some smiling, some still whispering. We didn't care anymore. Funny, isn't it? He murmured one evening, watching the sun sink low. What is? I asked. That we started out hating each other. And somehow, he squeezed my hand. We ended up here. I leaned my head on his shoulder. Hatred was just love in disguise. We were too stupid to see it back then. He chuckled. Guess we're not stupid anymore. I looked at him, at the man who had once been my enemy and had become my everything. No, I said softly, we're not. And in the golden light of the fading day, I knew through fire, through time, through every version of us we had found the ending we deserved. Love, eternal and unbreakable. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.